So the Bose QC45s are a decent pair of premium ANC headphones. However, their standout characteristic is just their comfort, and for some people, comfort is their main deciding factor, and I can't blame them. However, the Sennheiser PXC552s are also a pair of very comfortable premium ANC headphones. Now, I do think the PXC552s are due for an upgrade, but I think they can still hang. Now regarding pricing, the Sennheisers have a retail price of $350, but since I do think these headphones are about to get an upgrade, you can find these headphones on sale for $170, which is insane. Whereas the QC45s have a retail price of $330. So if you don't mind putting up with some minor shortcomings, the Sennheisers are a steal. Nonetheless, if you want to pick either of these two headphones up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch shelf down below. I've made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know I can be very particular. So I'll only set my name on something that I'm really proud of. Now first, let's talk about these cases. The Sennheisers come included with a very premium feeling fabric case, but unfortunately this isn't a hard shell case. So I do worry about these headphones getting crushed if you stuff them into your backpack. Whereas the Bose actually come included with a hard shell case, so they're going to keep your headphones better protected. Overall, both of these cases are fine, but you are going to have to be more careful with the Sennheisers if you're a constant commuter or flyer. But now let's talk about the headphones themselves. Build quality wise, yes, the QC45s feel more premium in your hands than the PXC552s. The QC45s have the sturdier feeling plastics and the QC45s have the better feeling leatherette. Now don't get me wrong, the Sennheisers don't feel flimsy and they have done a great job of putting up with constant wear and tear because these headphones have been used a lot both in the studio and on multiple trips, but they just don't feel as sturdy as the QC45s. However, Sennheiser's use of lighter materials on the PXC552s has really helped them cut on weight, which does show when it comes to comfort. The PXC552s weigh in at 227 grams, which is very lightweight for premium ANC headphones. Now the QC45s are also very lightweight, weighing in at 235 grams. Because for comparison's sake, the Sony 1000XM4s weigh in at 254 grams, and the Bose NC700s weigh in at 264 grams. Now, both the 1000XM4s and NC700s are relatively light, and you forget that you have them on if you're watching a movie, and they aren't too noticeable on your head when you're walking around with them on. However, both the Sennheisers and QC45s are even less noticeable, which is just great for comfort. Now, when it comes to clamping force, both of these headphones are Big Head approved, shirts down below. And both of these headphones have less clamping force than your Sony 1000XM4s or Bose NC700s, making them great options if you really want a looser fit. However, if you have a really large head, then the PXC552s might be a little too small for you because their headband doesn't extend as far as the QC45s. For me, I gotta use the PXC552s with their headband extended all the way out. So if you're a Goliath, you might want to go with the Bose. But then, moving on to their earpads, both of these headphones have a very spacious earpads. They're both more spacious than both the Sony 1000XM4s and Bose NC700s earpads. So if you have really large ears or ears that stick out a lot, both of these headphones are good options as well. And since both of these earpads have a relatively low surface area coming in contact with your skin, they do a better job of staying cooler for longer than your main staples like the 1000XM4s and NC700s. So overall, when it comes to comfort, it really is a tie. Both of these headphones are more comfortable than your average pair of headphones because they're both lighter, they both have a looser fit to them, and their earpads are more spacious than average. The only thing to look out for is that with the Sennheisers, they might be a little too small for a small section of people. But now let's talk about tech specs. Regarding battery life, the Sennheisers have an advertised battery life of 20 hours with their active noise cancellation turned on. Now, a battery life of 20 hours is fine, but it is pretty low when compared to the rest of the competition. But then there are the QC45s, which have an advertised battery life of 24 hours with their active noise cancellation turned on, which is a little better, but it's still a little low when compared to the rest of the competition. Now, when it comes to charging these headphones, this is actually a major deal. The QC45s charge via a USB-C port, as they should, whereas the Sennheisers charge via a micro USB port, which in 2021 is a noticeable inconvenience. And I've also noticed that it takes forever to just charge these headphones. So, low battery life and micro USB charging on the Sennheisers is a major setback, if you ask me. Now, regarding connectivity, both of these headphones can be simultaneously connected to two devices at the same time so that you can easily hot swap from one device to another, regardless of operating system, which is great for power users. And when it comes to performance, both of these headphones have zero latency across the board when watching movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. But when it comes to audio codecs, the QC45s only have support for SBC and AAC. Now, SBC and AAC is going to be perfectly fine if you're just streaming your music and if you're an iPhone user, but a lot of other headphones these days now come included with support for higher quality audio codecs. The Sennheisers have support for SBC and AAC just like the QC45s, but they also have support for aptX and aptX low latency. But just keep in mind, if you do want to take advantage of these higher quality audio codecs, you do have to be an Android user. But if you want to, you can always just use a wired connection with both of these headphones because both of these headphones still have an audio jack and they still come included with audio cables, which I know sounds basic, but this is actually a pretty big deal just because Apple is on their whole little crusade. However, just keep in mind, both of these headphones are using 2.5mm audio jacks, and unfortunately, you can't use their USB ports as a wired connection like you can with some other headphones out there. But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these headphones. I'm gonna have to stress here that the QC45s are made for a very specific type of person. The QC45s are better suited for someone who likes a neutral or vocals focused EQ. The QC45s put an emphasis on the mids, but more importantly, their bass will not physically rattle your head. So for that reason, some people will say the QC45s sound flat. Now the QC45s don't actually sound flat, their bass is just mostly on the audible side, so you're not going to get too much physicality out of them. Now overall, I think the QC45s sound fine, and they sound better than, let's say, the Sony 1000 XM4s, because they have better instrument separation. But just keep in mind, these headphones don't have an adjustable EQ like most of the headphones out there, or like the NC700s. So personally, I really hope that Bose adds an adjustable EQ to these headphones in a future firmware update. But then there are the PXC 552s, which have a somewhat adjustable EQ. Now you can play around with the bass, spatial setting, and reverb, and you got a few preset EQ settings to choose from. It's better than nothing, but I wish these headphones had the same EQ interface that's found on Sennheiser's earbuds or the Momentum 3s. You just have more control over it. But nonetheless, from a performance standpoint, the PXC 552s do have noticeably better instrument separation and a wider soundstage than the QC45s, making them sound more open. Now, even though the PXC 552s are also geared towards someone who prefers a more neutral sound signature, you can always get some physicality out of their bass if you play around with the bass setting on these headphones. Now, these headphones won't rattle your head as much as the Sony 1000 XM4s, but their bass will give you a little more physicality than the bass on the QC45s. Now, when it comes to actually controlling your media, this could actually be a deciding factor for some people. The PXC 552s are using a touchpad, and this touchpad is really good. It's very accurate, and it's easy enough to use. However, if you don't want to have to deal with a touchpad on your headphones, you can always go with the physical buttons found on the QC45s. However, I do want to point out that the Sennheisers do have wear sensors, so they'll automatically play or pause your music when you take these headphones off and put them back on, whereas the Bose won't. Now personally, I don't really care for wear sensors on my headphones, and I usually just turn that feature off, but I'm just pointing this out for the person that just needs to have all of the features. But now let's talk about the active noise cancellation on these headphones. Plainly said, the Bose QC45s do in fact block out more noise than the Sennheisers. However, the Bose QC45s have noticeably more cabin pressure than the Sennheisers. Now, they don't have as much cabin pressure as the AirPod Max, and they have less cabin pressure than their predecessors, the QC35s. But with the QC45s, you will feel like you gotta pop your ears from time to time. Whereas with the Sennheisers, you barely feel any cabin pressure. But so that you can see for yourself, we're going to jump into an ANC test. Now, first off, I decided to include the AirPod Max in this ANC test because they currently block out the most amount of noise here because they brutally go after those constant low frequency sounds. However, the AirPod Max do have a lot of cabin pressure, more cabin pressure than the Bose QC45s. So for that reason, they aren't my preferred headphones when it comes to active noise cancellation. But like you may have just seen, the QC45s block out noticeably more noise than the Sennheisers because they do a better job of going after those constant low frequency sounds. So if active noise cancellation is a high priority for you, then you might want to go with the Bose. However, you just have to be mindful of this cabin pressure. Now, everyone might not be as sensitive to cabin pressure, but I am. Now, you won't feel too much cabin pressure if you're listening to music, but you will notice it if you're watching a movie or just have nothing playing in the background. So personally, I still prefer the ANC on the PXC 552s because it's more comfortable for me, and they still block out a decent amount of noise. However, one pet peeve that I do have about the QC45s is that you can't use them with their active noise cancellation completely turned off. You either got to use them with the active noise cancellation turned on or with their ambient mode turned on. And sometimes you do want to be able to use your headphones with their ANC completely turned off because number one, it does save on battery life, and I'm just guesstimating here. Maybe the QC45s could hit a 30-hour battery life if you could use them with their ANC turned off. But then also sometimes your headphones do sound better with their ANC turned off, and sometimes you just want to take a break from their cabin pressure, which is especially true with the QC45s. So like I mentioned in past videos, Bose, please, in a future software update, can we please just get a simple off mode on these headphones, but also please don't break my headphones with your next firmware updates because you are really good at that. But now let's talk about the ambient modes on these headphones. Unfortunately, the PXC 552s don't actually have one. They have a conversation mode where if you double tap their touchpad, they'll lower the volume of your music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you so that you can quickly talk to someone like this.
Day by day, I'm reaching out for someone who can take.
But unfortunately, with the PXC 552s, you can't actually have your music playing while they're pumping in the ambient sound like you can with the Momentum 3s or like with a whole lot of other headphones out there. However, I will say that this conversation mode is very useful for my constant commuters and flyers. Now, the QC45s do have a proper ambient mode on them, but it does need work. For starters, you can't adjust how much ambient noise these headphones let in, like you can with most other headphones or like you can with the NC700s. But also, this ambient mode just mostly lets in noise pollution. I found that is very hard to actually understand what someone is saying, even when they're talking directly at you. And then there's also the fact that this microphone array does like to pick up a noticeable amount of wind noise when walking outdoors. But at least with the Bose, it is better than nothing. But finally, here's the microphone test. Now, both of these headphones have decent sounding microphones. However, I can't help but feel that the Sennheiser PXC 552s do a better job of focusing and amplifying my voice. And I also feel that Sennheisers do a better job of dealing with noise pollution. Now, you can definitely hear some road noise in the background, but you can still hear my voice pretty well. Whereas with the Bose QC45s, even though they are trying to block out that road noise, my voice, it does sound a little shallow and a little hollow, and I can't help but feel that there's a little bit of static in the background when I'm talking. And the same thing can be said about blocking out chatter. They're blocking out some noise, but my voice still sounds a little shallow and a little hollow. Whereas with the Sennheisers, my voice is much more prominent, making it much easier to understand me. So overall, I do feel that the Sennheiser PXC 552s have the better sounding microphone here. But with all that being said, both of these headphones are decent, and they both excel when it comes to overall comfort. However, I will not deny that these headphones do have their shortcomings. With the PXC 552s, their short battery life and micro USB charging is a noticeable inconvenience, and they don't have a proper ambient mode, which is a pretty standard feature now. However, these headphones truly sound great, and if you can get them on sale for $180, they truly are a steal. But don't be surprised if we get an updated version of these right around the corner. I really hope we do. And then there are the QC45s, which are good, but I can't help but feel that Bose is holding these headphones back to compel you to upgrade to the NC700s. But the QC45s do block out more noise than the Sennheisers, they have an ambient mode, and they have a slightly longer battery life with USB-C charging. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of these products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I've made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great.